Alright, hey, Hades Mega here, and guess what? I got a front fender finally. Okay? So, if you watched my my Warp9 steering lock video, alright, it's an adjuster for the headset, alright? I bought it from Warp9 Racing for 40 bucks. I shot a video about that, check it out if you're interested in it. But there's a feature with this steering lock, alright? The nut, the nut where the bolt screws in from the top, on the bottom, it has two 5mm threaded holes, all right, that are there so you can attach a fender, and that's one of the reasons I bought it, all right, because it gives you a place to mount a fender, all right. My original plan was to use a star nut. Okay, I was gonna get a star nut and just pound it up in there in the opposite direction, right? Yeah, I was going to stick a screw in there, and then I was just going to use some zip ties to stabilize the fender. But I feel this works much better, okay? So this is a DRZ fender. What DRZ? I'm not sure. It's definitely from a Suzuki. It looks really, really small, all right? It looks like a mini bike fender. I don't think it's a DRZ 400, because I'm pretty sure the DRZ 400 has a big fender, all right? Or it could be from a Supermoto DRZ, all right? I'm not sure. But anyway, I've had this thing for a long time. All right, I don't quite remember where I bought it. All right, I know I bought it on eBay somewhere, but I've had it sitting around for a long time. And I said, hey, you know what? That will probably look pretty good on the light bee. All right, and so I decided to use this guy. All right, and it looks like it works. All right, Hades Mega has not tested it out yet, so I will have a follow-up video to see how well it does. All right. I'm going to test it in the dirt, and I'm going to test it for Supermoto, alright? My worries about testing it for Supermoto is like the wind might hit it, and it might come off or break off or something, okay? Hopefully it'll be okay, alright? So yeah, that was my original plan, was to use a star nut, but now we're using the Warp9 steering lock, alright? We're using the holes on the nut part, alright? Will it make it harder to adjust the headset in the future? I don't think so. I think it'll be fine. And so I'm going to go over how I mounted it, and then I'm going to go over how I built it in a second. All right. So normally when I do these kind of these fabrication project videos, I do the videos, like I take videos in the beginning, all right, in the beginning and like throughout the process. Well, this time I did a little different, all right. I did it first. I took a bunch of pictures, all right, along the way, and then and I decided to go over it. I'll go over it step by step now after I installed it. Okay, it's not quite done yet. I need to put Loctite on the bolts, all right, because I'm afraid they're going to come loose and then my fender will fall off. Oh, and then I was going to add zip ties where the pre-existing holes are for the fender to help stabilize it, all right? And it's just a backup just in case it thing, all right? Anyway, let's take a closer look at it, and then I'm going to go over how I installed it, and then if you want to try something similar, you can go for it, all right? So let's go. Okay, there it is. So I have the Manitou Dorado Expert fork, all right? This is the Expert fork. I think this is for like a 29-inch dealie, all right? It's the bigger. It doesn't have the flat crown, all right? It has a offset crown, all right? So it's got this round thing here, so that presents a big problem, all right? Well, that made this more difficult to install, all right? And I've never seen the fender installed like that before. It looks kind of funky. See how this fender is like bolted straight to the triple tree. The clamp or crown, it's not called a crown in the motorcycle. But anyway, see how this is flat and this just bolts straight to there? Well, we can't do that with this because it's rounded, all right? It's what they call offset, all right? I think it's what's called offset. So what I had to do, all right, is I had to fabricate a spacer. And this is actually the spacer that comes with the kit, all right, for setting the height on this guy, all right. See how I have there's a spacer right down there. Well, I'm using the second from the largest spacer, all right, to fill in this gap here, all right. It's basically a big washer is what it is, all right. You could probably just throw a bunch of washers under there, but this worked pretty good, all right. Okay, so yeah, there you go, Manitou Dorado. That's the reason I needed to use this, is because it's like arch shaped, okay? So I needed something to make up that space, because this fender is not designed for this, all right? If you had a fender that was, well, there would be nowhere to mount it because it's rounded. There's nowhere to bolt it into, okay? So that's the way it's mounted, with the spacer there. I tried to use the largest spacer, but it didn't work. All right, it was too long, and the bolts for because this is a very long bolt. All right, it goes all the way down there. All right, and it didn't reach here. Okay, so and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of threads still left there. So what I'm gonna say. Okay, but anyway, so that's how it's mounted, and it's mounted with two 5mm pan head stainless steel screws. All right here, and I have two fender washers. All right, really small fender washers. So that's all that's holding the fender in there. The fender is pretty strong. Okay, so anyway, so there it is. All right, that's how it's on there. Like I said, I'm gonna take it out one more time. I'm gonna put Loctite on the bolts so they don't back out. All right, I could probably use a split lock washer also. Okay, as you can see, the plastic is all melted here. I will go over that in a bit. All right. And I'm gonna put zip ties. All right, I'm gonna put zip ties around here. All right, I'll shoot a final video when I get all that done. Okay, but anyway, I'm going to the racetrack tomorrow, so we're gonna go test this out, going high speeds. I think it should be fine. As you can see, I have no clearance problems at all with the controller, and so the beauty of having it on an upside down fork, and it's mounted on the triple clamp. All right, the crown, is that this doesn't move at all. This will always stay up there, all right? I don't have to worry about a thing. And why, Hades Omega, do you want to go with the high fender and not the low fender? Because I had, let's see, there's a broken one up there. I had a Crud XL fender. Well, I love the Crud XL fender. However, it is no good riding off-road, all right? So I raced in Virginia City Grand Prix. It was a wet race, and we got a lot of mud packed on the tires, all right, on the knobs, and there was so much that there was this big thing of mud here, and it would get packed up underneath the fender, and at some point it packed up so much that it locked the wheel. All right, the front wheel would not move anymore, and I had to get rid of all that mud and stuff in there, and yeah, it was bad, dude. So that's why I said after that race, I'm no longer going to put any low fenders on this bike anymore. So I decided that's it. We're going to just put a high fender from now on. All right, so there it is. Okay, plenty of clearance. But I feel that this is better. This is like a traditional dirt bike type of fender, all right? And it's mounted as close to the traditional way that you would mount a fender like that one, okay? But yeah, I got plenty of clearance. This doesn't move, all right? With the Crud XL fender, it moves, all right, when it goes up. And it could hit this, all right? But the one thing we have to worry about, that's why I still have to test this out. I have to test this out on the dirt and at the racetrack and all that stuff. When the wheel moves in, all right, the fork, these fork guards here, they move up, all right? It moves up here, and this may touch this, all right? I think that's the only clearance problem that we might have, all right? So I'm gonna have to ride this off-road and see if this touches this, all right? If it does, it's not a big deal, but I don't know, we'll see. We'll figure something out. Maybe we can trim this or something so it has a little more clearance. We probably just have to trim like this up here, but it would make the fender weaker, all right? It's a pretty tough fender, all right? Okay, so there it is. It's on there. I think that'll be okay. Like I said, I still got to do some testing. Let's go over how I installed this thing, okay? So the first step, and I have pictures. I'll show you them along the way, but this is my original plan. So we had to use, this is the largest spacer that came with this Warp9 kit, all right? And Hades Omega's plan was to make a spacer, all right? And I said, how am I going to fill up this void here? Because the bolt will be moving around in here like this, like that, right? So my brilliant idea was to add bushings to it, all right? Or just fill it up with something, all right? And I used these rubber bushings. I believe this is from like a radiator. This is a radiator bushing or something Like, you know, the radiator pin just goes in there and it kind of floats around in there, and it allows it to vibrate a little bit. It's like an anti-dampening type of bushing, right? So I was going to put this in here, all right? Okay, and that was going to be the spacer I was doing, all right? And then so what I had to do was cut this out so it would fit on the nut, all right? Because the nut is like, it's this kind of long thing that has to go through there, all right? And it doesn't fit through that hole. Okay, so that was the first step to make that spacer, all right? To fill in, because that fills in the gap here, all right? All right. And then the next step, so what I ultimately wound up doing was using the one that's on there, all right? That's the second of the largest one, all right? And I wound up using one of these grommets, all right? These Harbor Freight grommets. I used the biggest one. See, the biggest one kind of fits in there. Boop, boop, boop. I still have one left, so. But yeah, I put that in there, and then I used a very large drill bit to enlarge it, all right, as much as I could. The other drill bits I had were like either too big or too small. And then what I did was use a Dremel tool, all right, that guy right there, to enlarge the hole. Okay, again, I got some pictures of that. Check that out. Okay, did you check that out? Okay, good. So I found out that this is too big, so I wound up getting the smaller one. All right, not a big deal. And also the rubber part, it sticks out a little bit, but that's okay because you got this big hole. They get the big hole on the steerer tube. All right, so there's a little bit of rubber sticking out in there, but it doesn't matter. Okay. Okay, so that's how that works. Oh, okay. So the next step was to modify the fender a little bit. All right. So this fender is for like a wider crown, okay, or clamp. All right. See how wide this one is? There's still space. I could probably stick my finger in there. There's so much space. All right. This one, it's literally touching the fork. All right. I have to like shoehorn this fender in there when I install it. Basically, I turn it sideways, and then I stick it in there, and then I rotate it sideways, all right? So it's snug. It fits in there really tight, all right, which makes it like look really nice, actually. So, to get this to fit inside the crown here, all right, because I needed to shove that up as far as I could, all right, because the way it was before, it would be like down here, like, so I had to move like a good like ½ inch. Okay, how did Hazy make it do that? Well, so you can see it's melted here on the sides. All right, I thought of a couple things. Maybe I'll just cut a hole in it. So I didn't want to do that. So what I wound up doing, all right, with here, so I put it in there and I put it up there, and I was like, man, it's got to move quite a bit. All right, and if I could like make this narrower, all right, this narrower between the crowns, I can get this to go up there, and then it'll reduce the clearance. Also, it'll make the fender higher, all right. We'll have more clearance between the moving parts is what I want to say. Okay, hopefully we got enough clearance. Okay, but anyway, how did Hazy make it do that? I used a heat gun. All right, I used a heat gun and a ball peen hammer. As you can see, there's all that black plastic stuff on the end of the ball peen hammer. All right, and I used it to mold. I would heat it up with the heat gun, then I would pound it with the hammer, and it would melt the plastic, and it would also form the plastic. It would like kind of, you would be forming the plastic at the same time, and I got it to squish. I worked on one side, then I worked on the other. So check those pictures out. Okay, did you get that? All right, good. All right, and then so after I got this guy to fit, After I got this guy to fit up there a little better, all right, I could probably do a little bit better job. I know those look a little ugly. I could sand it a bit to make it look nicer, is what I'm going to say. So after all that, after I modified the fender to fit in there better, I'm thinking, like, you know, the D&M fender would probably, the stock Sauron fender, for the newer Sauron bikes, would probably work better than this one. But that's okay. Like I said, I had this one lying around, and I wanted to use it because I've had it for like more than a decade now, all right? And then my plan was to put it on this bike, all right, or this bike, all right? And then I wound up getting a long fender for it, all right? And then yeah, so there it is. It's up there. So the next step was to drill the holes, all right? So once this fit, and then once this fit up, I was able to get that up in there. I drilled the holes, all right? So what I did was I kind of pushed everything up there with my arm like it is right now, all right? Held it in place, and I got a silver marker, and I marked it right here, okay? So I knew that's exactly where this is gonna fall, all right? And then what I did is I put the nut, all right, this part here, the bottom part, on top of the fender, and then I marked it, all right? I marked it with and I messed up a little bit. I marked it with this, okay? And then I drilled it. I drilled it with I think a 1364 bit. This guy right here. Check those pictures out. Okay, yep. And then yeah, so I screwed up a little bit. I wound up slotting the hole a little bit with the drill bit, and then so I got a little adjustability also, so that's nice. And then I mounted it on there with the 2 bolts that I showed you. Okay, they're 2 5mm bolts with some fender washers here. Okay, yep, good stuff. All right, and then that's kind of where we are right now. All right, I was able to actually bolt this onto here. All right, I'm able to bolt the nut onto there, and then I can finagle it. Like I said, I have to shoehorn it. I have to turn it sideways, and then turn it sideways again, and stick it up in there. All right, and then you tighten it with the nut on top here. So if this loosens, this will fall off. All right, but if I add, well, my plan is to add zip ties. See how there's a hole here and there's a hole here. All right, I'm going to add a zip tie there, and then we'll use that to that's a just in case, you know, it falls off or this ever loosens, the whole thing won't come off. Okay, there's nothing worse than like, oh, the bolt comes loose and your fender falls off while you're riding, right? You don't want that to happen. All right, but anyway, I think it turned out good. The black matches the fork nicely. All right, as you know, my Sauron is the carbon colored one. It's the gray one, so it's not actually black. So, but it's got a lot of black parts on it. Okay, so anyway, yeah, so there it is. We're done with it. So the last thing I have to do is add the zip ties and then add some Loctite on it. So I'm gonna go take it off right now, and then you guys can see what it looks like a little bit closer. Before I put it back together, and then that's the end of the video. All right. Okay, anyway, there's the bolt that I used. All right, it's got this little fender washer on it. Maybe I could put a bigger one on there. I'm not sure. I probably should try and look for a bigger one. I don't have a lot of these 5mm bolts. They're not very common. I don't use them very often, but that's what it uses. Okay, guys. I'm just gonna get some Loctite. All right, Loctite. There you go. So I'm just gonna put. I just took one out, so the other one is still in there. And then we're going to put Loctite on it. it will just come loose. Okay. And I'm just gonna go put it back in. All right, it uses a 3mm Allen wrench. Okay, I can remove the other one. Okay, I'm gonna go add some zip ties to it. Okay, finishing touches. There you go. So there's the zip ties. All right, they're going around here, and it's going over to crown. All right. Cool deal. And then there's what the bottom looks like. Okay, zip tie right here. Yeah, there's a chance that maybe the wheel will come up and it might touch these. I'm not sure. I think it'll be okay. I should make sure I grind make it sure so it's not sharp. Okay, this one's kind of sharp. I probably might want to grind that a little bit, but I think we're good. Okay. All right, there you go. I hope you guys enjoyed that. That's the video of how I made this bad boy. All right, that's a DRZ something Fender. All right, it's from some kind of DRZ. All right, it's a Suzuki DRZ Fender, and it fits there. It looks like it belongs on there, honestly. So it looks great. I adapted it so it would work with the Dorado fork. All right, it's kind of narrow for that Fender, is what I'm gonna say. Probably the stock Suron Fender probably would work better on this. All right, but I don't have a stock Suron Fender. All right, remember mine came with the RST Fender. Mine came with the RST fork that doesn't have fenders. All right, if you see a RST bike that has a fender, well, they don't have a high fender like that. Okay, but the Suron does come with a high fender. But it's for the D&M forks, all right, the upside down forks. But as you can see, it has good clearance, and it's mounted on there. I don't think it's gonna fall off. I hope so. All right. So I will go ride it tomorrow. I don't think we're gonna be doing any jumps or off-road riding though, so I won't be able to test the clearance, but we will be able to test it at higher speeds. All right. So I will have a follow-up video for this to let you guys know. At the racetrack, we're probably hitting speeds of up to 50, 60 miles an hour maybe, okay? And depending on the configuration of the track, so we'll get to test it out at high speed. Will it make the bike slower? I don't know. Will it make the bike more stable? I don't know. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I'll let you guys know tomorrow after I get back how it did at the racetrack. All right, so I'm worried about aerodynamics and all that stuff. Is it gonna make my bike faster or slower? Hopefully it makes it faster, and also it may affect the cooling of the controller, because as you can see, it kind of blocks the controller a little bit, but there's some holes at the back of this fender to let some air flow through it. Okay, so that's why I'm saying, like, yeah, it may affect the aerodynamics. I don't know if it may be faster, it might be slower, I'm not sure, but at least we'll have a fender and it looks nice. Okay, that's what I'll say. All right, and then we'll have to do like an off-road test sometime. I will do a follow-up video for how well it does off-road. All right, that's the real one right there. That's the one where I have to worry about the clearances. All right, and the clearance I'm worried about is the fork guards. All right, and I have to have these fork guards because they protect the stanchions. All right, I destroyed the stanchions on my other fork because I didn't have anything like fork guards on there. All right, so there it is. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I'll take some pictures of it on the bike when I'm at the racetrack. Okay. Yeah, okay, another good thing about this is, yeah, we have to use, I use tire warmers at the racetrack, and the tire warmers will not get caught up on this. All right, when I had the Cred XL fender, it would be really low and it would be hard to get the the tire warmers in there. This should not affect that at all. It should be easy to get it on there. Okay, cool deal. All right, thanks for watching. Hayes Big out.